understanding of corruption is that it comes in many forms. The definition is that it is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. And it takes many forms: bribery, embezzlement, cronyism, any other abuse of office, any other improper conduct which prejudice the public.
Thank you. Next question. What is your understanding of the independence of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission and the performance of its constitutional mandate?
Yes, the independence of the Anti-Corruption Commission is provided for in the Constitution. I look at it in terms of institutional independence. And institutional independence has some very key elements: financial independence and personnel independence. Then I also look at individual independence, where, for example, commissioners must be independent, being persons of principle and great integrity to serve as a commissioner. Even the staff of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission has to be people of integrity, great integrity, and professional. So I look at it in terms of the institutional independence and the individual independence.
Thank you. The third question for me: what recommendations would you make to the government to enhance integrity and accountability in order to prevent corrupt practices in the public and private sectors?
Yes, I will look at recommendations in terms of the policy framework. That's one area where I would provide recommendations. Statutes like the Anti-Corruption Commission Act, which is still to be fully aligned with the Constitution. We look at other statutes like the Prevention of Corruption Act, where I believe that the other provisions that can be strengthened. Then I'll look at the Commission itself in terms of its ability to exercise its constitutional mandate. To what extent is the Commission adequately resourced, human resources, financial resources, in line with provisions of the Constitution, Section 322, which requires that Parliament should ensure that the Commission is adequately resourced. So I would look at the policy legal framework, I would look at the operations of the Commission itself, and also I would recommend better collaboration with other institutions which are there which play a role in the fight against corruption. Institutions like the National Prosecuting Authority, the police, even the financial intelligence unit in the central bank, all those key institutions that are involved in the combat of corruption.
Thank you. Question number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Makamure, what do you think will be your contribution to the curtailment of corruption when appointed?
Yes, I think I will play a very important role in the fight against corruption. First and foremost, that an experience that I've gained my many years working with oversight institutions like Parliament, where I've specialized a lot in the area of public financial management. So I see that as a valuable experience that can be brought to bear in terms of the operations of the Commission. So for example, you want the Commission to be able to account better as provided for in section 119 of the Constitution, where all institutions and agencies are accountable to Parliament. So you also want to give them experience working with Parliament to promote that accountability better in terms of reporting, for example. Then my years' experience doing policy research, analysis, I think that would be very valuable to the work of the Commission. Because one of the functions of the Commission is to advise government in terms of measures that can be implemented to promote integrity and accountability in the governance system. So I think that experience will be very valuable to the Commission. The research, you need to do continuous research and identify weaknesses and loopholes that maybe people are taking advantage of. So that advice that can be given government will be very helpful. And also, I think the Commission needs to be very visible. Sometimes, public perception of the work of the Commission can be negative because people don't know what this Commission is all about. People don't know what the dangers of corruption are. And if we are caught on the wrong side, what are the sanctions? What are the penalties? Most people don't know that you can even go to jail for 20 years. People don't know. So I think there is need for lots of publicity. In fact, there's need for education needs for people to understand that if you are corrupt, this is what happens. So I can contribute immensely in such public education campaigns, and just making sure that the Commission reaches out to the people. So I see a lot of that I can bring in to the work of the Commission.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Mzenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Makamuri, in what ways do you think the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission can investigate and expose cases of corruption in the public and private sectors?
Yes, that is one of the functions of the Commission, to investigate and expose corruption. So in what ways the Commission must have adequate expertise within to be able to investigate. And one way of investigating is that the Commission must put in place adequate mechanisms for people to be able to report corrupt practices. Right? Mechanisms that make it easier for people to report. And you want people to be properly protected when they report corruption issues. So this is where I would myself recommend, for example, the whistleblower protection act, so that people feel are protected, right, when they are reporting suspicious corrupt activities, for the Commission to be able to investigate. But you also need investigators, of course, that the Commission has to hire. The Commission is one of its functions is to require, right, other agencies like the police to assist in investigations, and then even arrest. If there are police officers that have been seconded to the commission, those police officers have the power to be able to, to effect arrest in line with the constitutional court judgment of Moyo versus Sergeant Chacha and others in 2017. So there's need for those mechanisms to be in place for people to be able to report. Even other countries, there are hotlines which can be utilized to provide information for the commission to receive information from the public and then carry out those investigations. And the commission is required to direct the police to investigate. It has the power to direct the Commissioner General to investigate, and the Commissioner General must comply with the directives of the police. That's one way which enables the commission to be able to carry out its work. And the Commissioner General must report to the commission on the results of that investigation to allow the commission then to do its work.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Vanessa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Makamuri, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yes, can you walk us through a situation where you had to deal with a case of corruption and explain to us how you dealt with it?
A situation where personally
Yes.
I've dealt with
We encountered a situation
of corruption. I can talk about my workplace where you then there could be some suspicious transactions going on, right? And violation of the rules and procedures that are in place. But I haven't really been directly involved in a case where I came across a corruption case, heavily involved in that. I think what probably I have encountered is what I would call petty corruption. Where, small matters. And that I've dealt with it in my workplace, applying the rules that are in place.
Why don't you tell us about that small case, how you dealt with it?
Yeah. When there was the violation of some procurement regulations, there was supposed to be because transaction was above a certain amount. If our rules say if transaction is above 5,000, right, you need to put in place a procurement committee, as we see, right, and look at the quotations and arrive at a decision, and means have to be produced. So it was suspicious because there was an attempt to circumvent those procedures and regulations. As someone who had the final say, that procurement could not proceed, and a written report was required from the person who was in charge to explain why the procedures were not followed. Although there was no evidence that someone wanted to influence, right, the results of that procurement, but it was a suspicious transaction that I was able to deal with because I had the final say in that procurement matter.
Thank you very much. I think our interview ends there. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
You can take a bottle of water also. Cool down your throat.
Thank you very much.
Our next candidate is Advocate Mandile. Welcome, Advocate Mandile, for your interview. You'll be asked 6 questions in 20 minutes' time. We request you to be concise, but don't detract the substance of your response. And also refrain from telling us more about your background because we have your CV. The first question, Advocate, is what is your understanding of corruption?
Thank you, Chairperson. My understanding of corruption is a scenario in which a person is benefiting, especially from a public purse or at times from a private purse, in an unjust manner and in a manner in which he derives some benefit which is not due to him at the expense either of the fiscus or of the public.
Thank you. Second question. What is your understanding of the independence of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission in the performance of its constitutional mandate?
The independence of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission is in the scenario in which it does its work, which is in terms of Section 255 of the Constitution. That is in the manner in which it does carries out the investigations, as well as in the manner in which it attempts to promote anti-corruption activities. But in its own independence, it has to work with other organs, including the National Prosecuting Authority, as well as the police. Whilst it is not an independent commission per se, as established in terms of Chapter 12 of the Constitution, it requires, however, to be impartial to such an extent that it does not get direction in the manner in which it carries out its functions, though it operates together with other state organs that I have mentioned, the NPA, together with the police.
Thank you. The next question. What recommendations would you make to the government to enhance integrity and accountability in order to prevent corrupt practices in the public and private sectors?
I think the first recommendation I would make is in terms of the policies, that the policies that the government has to come up with have to be clear and concise, and that people are able to follow such policies. At times when policies are unclear, people then take advantage. And I can give an example of the past scenarios where we used to have police charging people for anything and everything. And also I believe there are certain things which need to be streamlined so as not to be complex. I say so because I can also give another example of the public transport system, where we always see commuter omnibuses being stopped from time to time for offences at times which are not clear. And if you are not very clear at the end of the day whether they are being stopped because they have indeed committed an offence, or because it's if that the requirements are so cumbersome that they can really not be achieved. So amongst the recommendations I would make, I would ensure that the policies are clear and are something which is achievable, attainable, and that people can be able to follow them. Over and above that, there is need for the public to be enlightened about the proper way in which people have to behave, the proper way of the laws that people have to follow. Also in terms of the accountability practices, we have issues such as taxes, that people have an obligation to be able to pay taxes to the government, to support their government, and people are educated about such issues, so that even when we talk about the returns, people are able to do that. I think the most important issue is for people to be educated also, to understand the need for them to support the government initiatives, especially insofar as fundraising is concerned, so as not to cut corners.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Chungu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Advocate Mandinge. Can you highlight to this panel aspects of yourself which show integrity, knowledge, and experience in administration or prosecution or investigation of crime or general suitability for appointment to ZAC?
Thank you. I think I will start off from a scenario in which when I was magistrate, that as a magistrate, I was able to try cases and to invest, I wasn't investigating, I would try the cases, analyze the evidence. Over and above that, I would also be required from time to time to go and do the police trials, where police officers would be charged, among other things, under the Prevention of Corruption Act. I've also done cases for criminal abuse of office by public officials. After that, I can also give examples of the period that I was at the Law Society of Zimbabwe, where I was the chief regulator. And in the process, I would also investigate complaints from members of the public, which included complaints of abuse of trust funds by legal practitioners, as well as complaints of corrupt activities by legal practitioners, which would then bring to the attention of the council. From time to time, I would also take such cases before the Legal Practitioner Disciplinary Tribunal. So I believe I am suited because of the reasons that I have stated.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Dr. Zimba.
Thank you.
Activities, as well as to ask the police for any assistance in enforcing or in arresting any person and investigating any cases of corruption, as well as asking the National Prosecuting Authority to prosecute any possible cases of corruption.
Thank you. Next question. Honorable Mtsuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Mandinge, in what ways do you think the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission can investigate and expose cases of corruption in Zimbabwe and private sector?
I think the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission can investigate in so many ways the corrupt activities. I believe it does so through either getting information from whistleblowers who can advise them of what is happening. I think it can also do so through receiving information. Some of the information is through media reports. Some information would come through some audit reports, and including audit reports that we have seen in the media from the public auditor, for instance. These are some of the cases or instances in which the Anti-Corruption Commission, I believe, can also use as a way of understanding some of the things that are happening, and as a result will be able to take up its investigative role, mainly from such sources.
Thank you. That brings to the end our interview, and thank you once more for coming. You are free to